Stop me if you've heard this one before. A rich guy named Robert House walks into a bar. He attracts the attention of a couple of patrons, pointing out how they vote with their wallets against their own interests. They take the conversation outside, it goes as well as you would expect. He shows them $31 million and asks them a simple question.
What would you do for all of that money?
He then turns the men on each other and has one beat the others to death with a baseball bat. This is the opening sequence of the second season of Fallout, and it is a very clear statement of purpose and intent. This small sequence is a large part of what the whole season is ultimately about, expressed at a much more intimate scale than the show's usual big action beats. That second season just wrapped up last week, so we're going to talk about it here. We're going to look at the show's post-apocalyptic commentary on late capitalism, the video game adaptation's exploration of non-player characters, and what it means that there are men so obsessed with living forever that they cannot see a world that lives beyond themselves. And, also about how the house always wins. We talked about the first season of Fallout back when it launched 2 years ago. It was a show about the end of the American West, about the cowboy as a constructed piece of 50s nostalgia, and about frontier individualism as an imagined past and nightmarish future. This second season doubles back on this idea, the West becoming such an exhausted idea that our heroes retreat from California eastward into Nevada. I've got no idea how that works. I mostly base my geography of America on Indiana Jones maps. Much of the season revolves around New Vegas, the settlement built in the ruins of, yes, you guessed it, Las Vegas, a monument to American capitalism and excess, built in the middle of the desert and developed as a stopover point for troops and provisions being shipped westwards. These post-apocalyptic sequences are contrasted with flashbacks to a defense contractor summit in Las Vegas before the end of the world. In these sequences, Fallout implies that Las Vegas rather than Washington, D.C. has become the true seat of power in the United States. At one point, the President of the United States ends up waiting outside a hotel in a limo as private corporations step into the role that is traditionally held by government.
So what does this titan of the private sector think about his odds at succeeding where the government has failed?
Where I come from, which is America, the House always wins.
This is not a particularly subtle piece of political commentary, but it's an effective one, resonating with a world where the lines between public service and private enterprise have been all but erased, where billionaires can seize control of entire wings of government, and in doing so gain direct access to huge reservoirs of data about private citizens. So much of the season is about the corporatization of America, to the point that there is a subplot about a bunch of Vault escapees finding refuge in an office building, and another subplot in which Kyle MacLachlan gets to do an extended riff on The Man in the Grey Flannel Suit, one of the great movies about the corporate boom of the 50s. Fallout understands that one of the great ironies of American culture in general, and of 50s America specifically, is the juxtaposition of a culture ostensibly about individualism and self-determination, as reflected in the cowboy mythology that permeated pop culture and is personified in Fallout by big screen cowboy Cooper Howard, with the suffocating conformity of a capitalist system that seeks to turn those same individuals into lifeless office drones.
Trying to make my machines more lifelike, but hey, works the other way around too.
You're just a very replaceable part in this machine.
But look, maybe I'm being a little bit abstract here. If only there were some literal manifestation within the show of this idea, that corporate belief that value could be created for shareholders if everybody just, chips in. Much of the second season of Fallout is built around the idea of implanting chips in people's heads in order to control their behavior, to render them more docile and compliant.
Just give me a chance. I think you'll call what I've been doing redemptive.
You mean brainwashing those people?
A very sophisticated process, and we've been having amazing
I don't care.
results.
Let's go.
This is very obviously evocative of recent breakthroughs around, say, the Neuralink chip, which recently began human trials. While that technology has huge potential for people with disabilities, it also involves putting a piece of a computer designed by a gigantic conglomerate owned by a billionaire in your head. Also, their track record with animals is not great.
Barack Obama, it will almost be an honor to kill you.
In Fallout, these implants are used to regulate behavior and thought, turning wasteland warriors into compliant office drones. There is something very clever in this idea, both thematically and also when considering Fallout as a video game adaptation. Fallout is a role-playing game in which the player is encouraged to make choices and decisions that can radically affect the outcome of the story. The nature of Fallout as a game is that the player is given real agency within the narrative. With that in mind, it's a very smart thematic decision to make choice such a central part of the second season of the television adaptation, to the point that the payoff of the plot threads involving Lucy, Howard, and her father rests in the affirmation of Lucy's right to decide what happens to him.
If it was up to me, it wouldn't be your ass bleeding out all over the floor. But it ain't up to me.
More broadly, this emphasis on free will and self-determination for these supporting characters invites viewers to think rather literally about non-player characters, also known as NPCs, referring to computer-generated characters within a video game who are not controlled by the player, so do not exercise any choice or agency within the narrative. While the term originated in video games, it has entered the popular lexicon, employed by billionaires as a way of devaluing the agency or autonomy of other people. As with the chip in Fallout that turns these individuals into drones, it's a way of dehumanizing other people, reducing them to statistics or chattel. It's a very solipsistic way of looking at the world, in which the only person who is real is the person who is making that determination. If everybody else is an NPC, you might as well be a brain in a jar.
You're living in my world.
This is the way that so many billionaires seem to think about the world, in which other human beings are just agency-less resources to be exploited. These billionaires dream of going to Mars, but they imagine that they'll be arriving to colonies built by hundreds or perhaps thousands of anonymous drones who went before them on a one-way trip with nothing better to do than to give their lives for some billionaire to live their retro-futurist science fiction fantasy. After all, who are these drones building this new world for? Immortality is a major recurring preoccupation of the second season of Fallout.
She's 200 years old. She's not even from America. She's Canadian!
Some, like Steph Harper, have achieved immortality by marrying into wealth. Others, like Senator Diane Welch, spend an eternity living in agony. However, for the purposes of this discussion, much of the second season is built around the introduction of the character of Robert House, a billionaire CEO whose company got rich building robots and then sought to turn people into robots. The system is undeniably designed to favor men like House.
I rigged every aspect of the city so I could protect its future. I rigged every slot machine, every roulette wheel.
The game is so rigged in House's favor that he's even managed to win over death itself.
But you know what they say in Vegas? Everyone's a winner. Eventually. He had all the money in the world, but all he really wanted was to live forever.
As with the brain chips, there's some none too subtle contemporary commentary in that idea. Contemporary billionaires are obsessed with prolonging their lives. Peter Diamandis is currently offering a $101 million prize to anyone who can restore a decade's worth of wear and tear on a human body. Jeff Bezos has invested in Altos Labs with their, quote, cellular rejuvenation program, which sounds like a joke from a 90s episode of Star Trek. Even Elon Musk has an opinion on this because, of course he does. In keeping with that preoccupation with the refusal to acknowledge the agency of other human beings, Fallout suggests that the pursuit of longevity comes with a myopic perspective. People who cannot imagine their own death are unable to conceive of a world that continues beyond themselves. For a real-world example, consider billionaire Brian Johnson, who is regularly infused with the blood plasma from his own son Talmadge. In his own words, Brian Johnson no longer sees his son as the future, but instead an extension of his own past self.
I think Talmadge views me as his future self, and I view Talmadge as my former self.
That is like a profoundly fucked up way of looking at the world, where it's like, you know, I look at my son and I see myself 10 years ago. I don't see a future. I don't see my son inheriting from me. I don't see my son becoming something better or inheriting the world or forging his own path or his own identity. He exists only as a way for me to serve as his future. All he will ever see ahead of him is me. In Fallout, House seems incapable of imagining a world outside of himself. In the season finale, Howard threatens to destroy the diode that is keeping House alive, and House points out that destroying it would quite literally bring about the end of the world.
The damage would likely extend to other planets, so I would exercise extreme caution.
In the same episode, the remnants of Caesar's Legion recover the corpse of their dead leader, in the hopes that he named a successor, that he provided for the institution's future beyond his own life. Instead, they find a note. Fallout suggests that this solipsism of powerful figures leads to instability and chaos. In the real world, it perhaps explains why these billionaires are so disinterested in trying to solve actual problems like climate change, instead fixating on fantastical ideas like bunkers and space colonization, of leaving a dying planet populated by NPCs behind so that they and they alone get to live forever. More to the point, and to bring us back to that opening scene and how it encapsulates so much of what the season is about, Fallout suggests that these powerful men thrive by pitting rival interests against each other. House succeeds, while the Brotherhood of Steel and the Legion fall into civil war, and the season finale finds the Legion marching on Vegas. As long as House can keep the people beneath him fighting at each other's throats, he can simply lift himself up by climbing over their dead bodies. For those who are wealthy and powerful enough that they can dream of living forever, who cares about the end of the world? I've been Darren Mooney, and this was The Backdrop.